Well, good day to you. First of all, let me apologize for the hair. I haven't had a haircut in weeks, and it's falling down in my face, so I just put the visor on to help so you wouldn't be distracted. As you can tell, I'm here at a beautiful little lake. It's a little windy out and the sun is bright overhead, so it's not great fishing. So I thought what I might do is an informative video. By the way, this is just an incredible place to be. It's out in the wilderness. I am literally 5 miles from the nearest Dairy Queen or Sonic. And I do not recommend this kind of wilderness camping for most of you. Camping in this cabin at present. So I thought, what could I do since I can't be fishing? I thought a good thing I could do is present a scientific instructional video for you. A video about, are you ready? Worming. That's right, worming. Now some of you may think, aha, this is something like going on the snipe hunt, right? Something that the older Boy Scouts did to the younger Boy Scouts to initiate them into the troop. But no, this is actual science. In fact, those of you who are familiar with Frank Herbert's classic science fiction novel, Dune, you will be familiar with this concept. If you've read the novel, or if you have seen the movie based on it, you will remember how they raised those giant sand dune worms to the surface. They put pulsators into the ground that sent out throbs of energy. It was basically vibration. And the vibration irritated the worms rose to the surface, and the dwellers there on the planet of Snuffleupagus were able to bridle the worms, ride them to war, ride them to Walmart, ride them to school, though they probably had difficulty finding parking there. But that's the science. The science is that these vibrations irritated the earthworms that raised them to the surface. That's exactly what I have done these last 2 days, and that's exactly what the concept of worming does. What I have here are a couple of sticks. One with notches and one without, that would cause a rat-a-tat-tat vibration that will irritate the worms and bring them to the surface. Now, some of you will be able to make something like this. You have tools that will be able to put notches on it, or you're a very patient whittler and you would be able to make something that looks like this. Make sure it is a very, very hard wood, because the first time I made one of these, I made it of softer wood, and within an hour of rat-a-tat-tatting, it had already dissolved. So keep that in mind, hard wood. For those of you who do not have, like myself, the tools to make something like this, you can order it. I ordered mine from Worm Getter. That's right, Worm Getter. You can find it online, and made in the USA, and very hard wood, very good for bringing worms to the surface. What you're going to need to do is find some soft soil. Out here in the woods, it's no problem. I walked 100 feet from the cabin, and I found wood, I found soil that I was literally able to put that much of the stick into. And if you can only get that much of the stick into the soil, it's probably not going to be good for earthworms. Earthworms have created the very soft, penetrable soil. So find some soil like that, usually under trees that haven't been disturbed or raked, and you will be able to find your earthworms. I've done worming for about a total hour, and I have a coffee can full of the little guys, probably 100 earthworms there. So all you want to do is put the stick as far into the ground as you can, rat-a-tat-tat, and watch the earthworms rise to the surface. Now, probably for some of you, the first question is, well, why do I want a bunch of earthworms? Why do I want a coffee can full of earthworms? First warning, if you put a coffee can full of earthworms, do not put this in the same place in the kitchen that your husband or wife makes their coffee. All right, you've been warned. Why would you want a can full of earthworms? First of all, if you are at a beautiful lake, if you like to go fishing, especially for smaller fish, perch, brim, sunfish, earthworms are the best. Secondly, do you have a garden? There's your reason for wanting earthworms. Toss these babies on my garden and my garden is going to be very, very happy. Third reason, earthworms make a delicious, healthy snack. No, I'm not going to eat the earthworm without first sauteing it in a little butter and garlic. Highly recommended. So now that we've answered the question of why would we want earthworms, let me answer some observational questions. First of all, these worms are not deep. And by that, I mean more than they are not philosophically deep. I mean, it was the 10th grade when I first dissected an earthworm, and I remember what passed for a brain. I'm thinking they don't ask the deep philosophical questions that usual thinking creatures do, like, is this dirt that I'm living in the random result of the collision of trillions of molecules over billions of years? Or is this dirt I'm living in part of a marvelous creation of an omnipotent, infinite, loving God? Based on what I saw in the dissection lab, I'm thinking they're not that deep. But they're not deep in another way too. I imagined that these worms were going to be very deep and would take a long time to come to the surface. Based on what I've seen, I think they're right there on the surface. These guys are going to be popping out of the ground as soon as you start your rat-a-tat-tat motion. Second thing to keep in mind, what I noticed yesterday and today as I did my worming is that the place where I did the worming, worms would come up 5 feet in any direction from that, literally that far away. So you probably need to have very keen eyes, or what I had the first time I did my worming, small children. I have 3 beautiful girls and 2 handsome boys, and they were around me in a circle, and I did the rat-a-tat-tatting, and they did the worm gathering. By the way, a circle with a radius of 5 feet. If you have 3 children, and each of them is able to effectively gaze upon 20 square feet of area, is that enough children to look at all the area in your 5-foot radius circle? Get back to me on that one. Next thing I want to mention is a couple of warnings. When I first learned worming, my worming sensei told me that to keep this in mind, that oftentimes more than worms are irritated by the vibration, specifically snakes. And true to form, my very first effort yesterday, I got 2 worms and 1 snake. The snake was only 3 inches long. His head wasn't big enough to attach to my finger, so there was no problem there, but keep in mind, larger snakes are irritated as well. So please keep that in mind. Second warning is that when you pick up the worms, they will become schizophrenic. By that, I do not mean they will lie, steal, and have no moral compass. What I mean by that is not even that they will have dual personalities. They will be schizophrenic in that they will become dual worms. they will literally divide into half. There you have one worm in your hand, all of a sudden you have two. Happened to me multiple times. I take it this is a protective device that allows them to sacrifice part of themselves to a predator so that the other part can go and make more worms. But keep in mind that don't be surprised if your worm becomes two worms in your hands. Secondly, both worms will now poop on you. Keep that in mind as well. This is not a clean effort as you pick up worms. They have a tendency to poop on you. An interesting observation, I noticed that worm poop smells exactly like poop. So this is another reason you will want small children to help you. They can pick up the schizophrenic pooping worms and put them in the can. Well, I hope this has been helpful to you. I will hopefully come up with another informative video for you soon when I think of something that you just simply must know. Please, have a good day.